You're listening to another episode of Hey Mumma. Today, I'm going to dig up the past a little bit. You go back to when we went through the time where I got really sick with chronic fatigue, but I want to flip it and ask from your point of view what it was like. And so we're going to go back, how many years ago now? Would it be 5 years ago?
Yep.
Because like just 7 now.
Yep. So about 5.5 years.
5.5 years, because it was about 18 months. She was 18 months old when all of that happened.
Yep. It was 18 months, yeah.
So I'm going to take you back to the specific moment of when we were driving in the ute and you said to me, you shouldn't be this tired. I want to ask, do you remember that? When you said it's not normal for you to be this tired?
When? So was that wasn't the day you were diagnosed, was it?
No, it was a lead up. This was a lead up. Yeah.
It's very hazy, but...
Very hazy.
Right.
Oh, well, I remember details.
Yeah.
And then, I'm in the detail. I think I can go back to it in my mind very clearly. Yeah, when we were driving down that road with the bump.
Lansdowne Drive.
We had Lansdowne Drive, so we were all the way back there. Okay. And you were saying that, it's not normal for you to be this tired, and you were just sort of expressing your concerns. Yeah. But I wanted to ask, what were your thoughts leading up to questioning that? Because I know it takes you a while for you to say something about any kind of topic that you think may be touchy or maybe controversial or something.
Yeah.
It takes you a little while to actually ask the question. So I want to know, and from a guy's point of view or a husband's point of view, what was going through your mind when I was going through what?
Yeah, so I remember you as being this bubbly, energetic, bright personality. And that's how we met. That's how we kind of spent the first couple of years. So in the lead up to having Willows, I knew we'd both be struggling with sleep. And I had it in the back of my mind for a few months in the lead up to her being born. So that's where I did like the food bank stuff. And I just quietly made the agreement to myself in my head that I'd get up at 4 a.m. and do all that crazy shit, when at the time I was thinking I was being really thoughtful and caring husband, because I'd get all my shit out of the way early and then be there somewhat for the day. But I expected that to not last as long as it did. So getting to that 8 months mark where you stop breastfeeding the Logs, and you said to me, it's your turn now. Your turn to get up to Logie and to do, that dad stuff, because until that point you'd exclusively really cared for her throughout the night because it was the movie that she wanted.
Solves everything, yeah.
So I expected a big turn of events to happen, like things to start to move.
Turn around.
Yeah. Energy to start to come back. And it wasn't as though we weren't enjoying that period, but I thought we would have more energy to enjoy more things. So when it crossed the 12-month mark, I'm having these conversations in my head, and you're telling me how tired you were. We had the caffeine thing with the chiro in that period as well. So I kind of went with that to discover, because I was pretty skeptical of chiropractors at that stage. And when he started clicking you and stuff, I was like, okay. And then he said, you're intolerant to caffeine. And then caffeine's like caffeine, right? Like it's normal.
We've been told that it's
healthy.
It's good health. It's good for you.
Yeah, not the caffeine itself, but the antioxidants and coffee bean. You're taught that in nutrition, that is a source of nutrition. So it wasn't as though you were having 8 coffees a day or 4 coffees a day, having 1 coffee a day, 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd always been at 2. 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had that episode, and then I went off coffee for a bit, came back to coffee, nothing really changed. So by the time we got to that, I would have been 15, 16 months postpartum. It was pretty close to you being diagnosed. That's when things started to get worse. Like you started to get sick and you started being more tired. And that's when I was like, okay, what's going on? And all sorts of things was running through my mind. Like, are there any abnormalities? I was going to the worst case scenario in my head, like cancer or conditions. Like, I was like, what's happening?
I have no idea that you were even thinking that.
No, because how in tune spiritually you are, I didn't want to put it out there. I didn't want to put it out there. I didn't want to voice it. So there's no way I was going to voice it. I was going to use the word.
What was that like, being that person on the other side, thinking those thoughts, not being able to express them either? What was it like as a man or as a husband, a father? What was it like for you to be, what was it like for you, for your side of the coin? Like for me, I was suffering. I was like, man, this is like Groundhog Day every day. It's the same. I'm really struggling, like complaining, all that kind of thing. What was it like for you?
Well, straight away, I'm going to try and fix things. So I hope it came across to you as though I was trying to fix things, and I was trying to think about, like, trying to research. Hey, I was trying to think, I was trying to research.
Yeah, so how was that for you? Like, how did you feel that? Exactly. I was waiting for the word frustrating.
Yeah, it was really frustrating to see you suffering.
Yeah, especially as a health expert, right? We thought we were
imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
big time.
What's happening here?
And from my perspective, it was like, why can't I fix this? Yeah, like nutrition's my thing.
Yeah, nutrition's your thing. Like you're helping.
Yeah, and I remember we started the creatine. That was chronic fatigue. We started the creatine. We started the GABA as well, and that's just made it worse. That was all pre-diagnosed.
Was that?
Chronic fatigue, yeah. So we tried like little things here and there, and nothing we were working was working. Nothing I was trying was working. Like we would try and up protein a little bit to match it with.
Yes. We tried to stop my calculation.
And like his body weight. I tried to calculate for both these.
Which I'm sure that did help in some way, for sure. It would be helping, but there was a missing link in there when you're not sleeping. So we've been through all of that on the episodes. I want to know how, from your point of view, how that affected our relationship as a we weren't married actually, as parents, as a couple. I want to know from your point of view what that was like for our relationship.
So initially you go through the period of time where it's like, that the intimacy is not going to be.
Yeah, we're definitely like the first 6 weeks.
First 6 weeks, that was hard. That was so hard. I remember the 6 weeks being over, I was like, yes.
I think every man can agree. Oh, it's 6 weeks.
Yeah. And I remembered, like, at the time, like, I was actually living off pregnancy sex. Pregnancy sex was great. It was really great.
Yeah.
I loved it, from the perspective of my baby's in there. This is really close and connecting. It was a totally different experience.
We weren't ever worried about poking the tender up like that. Lots of guys have that fear.
Yeah. No, I don't think I had that fear at all.
You knew enough about it.
I knew enough about it, to know that would happen. So yeah, I was living off those memories for the first 6 weeks, and then we I can't remember specifically, but I'm sure there were moments where we did, still exchange some intimacy during that period.
Definitely, I can remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. Like I know that happened. So as time went on, I felt as the fatigue was getting in the way of you wanting me sexually. And I think that was my biggest struggle. I think as time went on and it didn't go back to what it was before, that's when I started to go, is this how it's going to be forever? You have those unrealistic fears go through your brain, and wanting to fix that as well as fix everything else. I saw you suffering. I saw us both not being able to enjoy as much as the parenting as much as we wanted to, and could go away on trips, and the trips were just hard. It was not a holiday. You did a holiday from the holiday you went on, because you get back and you'd be tired from the drive. Or even when we went to that snow, the snow thing in the what was it?
That was in the Hunter Valley. We were thinking, and that was one of my, and I do this for for an escapism. Is okay. Life is so hard right now. Let's go on a trip.
Yeah.
and with a baby and drive 5 hours. Yeah. Highly stressed, a baby that doesn't sleep. She wasn't a chill baby. Love her to the ends of the earth, but she wasn't a chill baby. She was demanding. She was clingy. And the more I read about these babies, like, it's actually very normal. Yet society teaches us that it's not normal. So that therefore we get frustrated with this baby that's wanting and having all these needs. And we praise babies that are so chill and they don't cry and they don't do this and they don't do that and they sleep through the night. They're the good babies, whereas we had a bad baby according to our society. Whereas the more literature that I read now, the books that I read now, it's actually very normal for a baby to not like strangers, to want to be on you all the time, to want to just be with mum if they're reliant on, the breastfeeding and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
So it was quite stressful to us, and the environment that we had around us and the content that we were getting fed. And I don't mean on social media, I mean family members and friends and stuff.
Yeah. So I was frustrated about family members giving us the hope or the idea that they would be showing up more than what they actually did. And I suppose that ties into what I was saying before about being sexually frustrated, lacking that connection and that intimate connection when we would have the opportunity to have some alone time, because one of your mum did more than my mum in terms of taking Lokes, and the girls both mirroring Lokes. But when that would happen, it gets to 8 o'clock, and
we're exhausted.
We're exhausted, but she was done. We'd be going picking up the girls because that was it. It wasn't as though I felt as though there wasn't effort in going, or the conversation even going in her head as though, okay, they're just getting this one night off. I'm going to try really fucking hard to comfort this girl and make her feel safe. And
so you didn't get a lot of support. So and we're sexually frustrated. And the times that we did, try and do fun things as a family to try and bring that closeness and that intimacy back. When you thought about things to get me in the mood, what sort of things did you think would try and get me in the mood? And here I was oblivious to that sort of thing because I was dealing, with my own stuff. Yeah. And I'd only think about
the running the baths and the candle.
Yeah, so in your mind, in your mind, you were like, okay, I'm sexually frustrated. I want this connection back with her. Yeah. Is that where the ideas of the bath and stuff came from?
Yeah, even before we had Lokes, that's what I'd do for you. I've run baths for you before, and candles, and didn't necessarily say, oh, that's not for me. So I continued with it. This is
maybe I didn't even know it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. If you don't know yourself, and then you've got somebody else doing something for you, and you see the movies, and you're like, oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah. Those things that I do, trying to organise a night where we could go and have a dinner or something. That was other things, like on a special occasion. I did the whole facial thing. I buy you a facial.
Yeah.
Some spa time.
Kind of thing.
Those are the things that I would think about. Found it very hard to think about things that weren't so grandiose though, like things that I can do that were just small but everyday things. I tried with the laundry and with the washing up of dishes and the cooking and the feeding you and that sort of thing too.
Which you do. I think it was just a really tough time in the house. So fast forward, when did things start getting a little better?
Yeah, so things started to get better when we both decided to do that role model challenge together. Mm-hmm. Because it got worse before it got better.
No, yeah, absolutely. So talk about the worst time.
Well, the worst time was, I remember you being diagnosed.
Yeah.
And then having that chat with Paul Cripp.
Yeah.
So I think I remember, I mentioned that on one of the episodes where a mentor of mine, I reached out to him and he basically said, I reached out to him because he was a PhD in exercise and nutrition science. So
And he taught us everything we know, like, fantastic.
Yeah, it wasn't him that was the expert, it was the people around him too. Like, he had some fantastic minds around him that he could draw from too, and his own experiences. And he had an experience with burnout, chronic fatigue. We had no idea. I had no idea about, and then he said, look, this is something I've experienced personally. It's going to take about 2 years. And I was like, because up until that point, you'd read things on the internet, you'd look at, because at first it was blaming blokes.
Yeah.
It was blaming the baby.
The poor baby.
And I was downloading apps, and it would tell us when there was a fucking sleep regression, or
Yeah. Come in, bursting in. I know what's happening. And then it's like, we're doomed.
we're doomed for the next 9 months.
Yeah.
Sleep regressions the whole way.
It's never going to get better. I remember you bursting in, Lansdowne Drive, saying, I know what's happened. It's a sleep regression, and it never goes away. I'm like,
Which is utter bullshit. Seriously, like, to get that news at a time in your life where you've been told the first 2 years, progression, they just get, they learn so much, they connect with you so much more. Each month and week gets better. To get that news from an app or whatever was tough, but then to get the news from Paul that this is going to take 2 years to see any improvements in, or to get over, that was tough. So there was that. And then there was the period where, we knew you were chronically fatigued. Mm-hmm. So sleep was the most important thing. And I would put there was a mattress, mattress or something.
No, it was a proper mattress.
Mattress.
Took it out to
in the lounge room, and that's where me and Logs would sleep.
For a couple of weeks to get me better.
Yep. Yeah. It's been like 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah. No, at the most. It wasn't
long. No. So we did that, and that was probably the darkest of times, because you were locked in that room for a long time. It felt like a long time. You spent hours there.
Yeah.
Even in the lead up, like, I'm going back here, but I remember there were weekends where you're like, I can't do this weekend. Like, you go out with your family, or you go and do whatever you need to do. Yeah. I'm going to lay here.
It's awful.
And, I'd take Lokes out, and then I'd come back with Panadol and Nurofen for you. Lignocaine or whatever it was for your throat that we needed to use.
When I first got, that was when I went to get the iron infusion and everything like that. There was a crazy time as well, like around all of that, where I went and got a pap smear, and I had a grade something, like where it came up as some sort of abnormality, where I then, instead of 2 years, I had to come back every 1 year. And it was sending the sleep deprivation and the healing process and stuff was, and also receiving that news sent me a little bit crazy. And I was then trying to blame you for that.
Yeah, you blame me for STDs.
Yeah, I was questioning you, saying that this was an STD.
Because I was, okay. So beforehand, before us getting together, there was history there. And obviously, like, I was being a boy, and then you knew that. And I think maybe that kind of caused a bit of, I remember saying to you, babe, you would have got it by now. We're fucking 4 years into our relationship. If I hadn't anything back then, you would have got it now. And I can see how you'd question that. Yeah, I could definitely see it.
I don't see it, because I think that, like, you're right, with the 4 years, I feel I was just like, it sends you, sleep deprivation sends you batshit crazy.
Yep.
It really can. And so you start thinking irrational instead of logical and rationally and making sense. It has you up here.
Yeah.
So do you remember?
Do I remember that time? Yeah, I do remember that time. That was crazy.
So to me, when I think about the worst time, I feel a worst time in the intimacy in our relationship and the closeness and connectiveness. That was the worst time, all the healing process.
Yeah.
Let's talk about when we started to get better. When did you notice? So we decided to do the role model challenge together.
Yeah. But when did 50 Shades of Grey come out? Because it was around that time as well.
50 Shades of Grey was like didn't have Lokes.
It was the second.
You can't blame 50 Shades.
I didn't blame it. I think that was like something I was holding on to. I was like, just get like it was. 50 Shades of Grey. But
the juice is
you ended up not liking the third one. I was like, wow. We'll find something new now. But yeah, no, we started to come out of that. I'm going to call it the chronic fatigue winter. Around that
And what did spring sprung?
Well, spring sprung when we came together and we were like, all right, we're going to do this Rumble challenge. You needed the accountability with nutrition.
Yeah.
You'd reached a point, I'd reached a point too where I was like, I don't have the answers. Don't have the answers. You came to the point where you were like, we don't have the answers, so
we need extra help. Yeah, and we'd done some mentoring with these coaches anyway, and we started to begin to love and trust them.
Yep.
So I needed that extra help, and she helped amazingly. Like we've talked about it before.
Yeah,
teaching
just great stuff.
Enough in the tank, and increasing the protein and burning, like realizing that I was burning way more calories than I was consuming, under eating, which no idea how much I used to eat, and I was still not consuming enough for my body to stop burning all the energy.
Yep.
So what are some of the things that we have done to improve our intimacy levels and our connectedness, our sex life?
Yeah.
How has it improved, and what have we done to improve it from your point of view? How do you think it's gotten as good as it has now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we've both improved on is your safety and security, feeling of safety and security in respect to you working on your nervous system. For me, also recognizing that I need to actually be the man, take the lead, make decisions, not bounce ideas off you and wait for your confirmation to run with what I know or my.
And this is in life or in insects?
This is in life, because life affects sex.
Mm-hmm.
Life affects sex. So especially for you, like if I'm touching and playing and we're, bumping in the kitchen, and like if we've got a whole day worth of that connection, when it comes to the nighttime, it's not a question of whether we're going to have sex or not. And I remember standing in the shower thinking, am I going to have sex with her tonight or not? Like a dumbass. And not actually thinking about the day that's just been, and just thinking, are we going to have sex tonight? And I think back to that and I'm like, come on, dude, seriously. Like, the thing with men is we can just switch it on, where I think for you and me, realizing that you need that level of feeling that you've been supported.
Mm-hmm.
And then, opening up about things. One of the people we listen to uses the term clearing the glass.
Yeah.
So there were times in our life where there were things I was holding on to that I wasn't open and forthcoming about, and then I'm sure there was the same for you. And
there was, yeah.
Over time, we've had blow-ups and we've had fights and we've had these breakdowns that have led to breakthroughs, and we've been able to clear that glass. It's been messy as fuck, but it's really helped to bring us together closer on a deeper level, and it continues to do that. There's more glass to clear, I'm sure, and there's closer and deeper connection to be had. I think those would be the two things, that I think have improved our sex life.
Yeah, I think you've said pretty much all of it. I was thinking the communication, the being open, being vulnerable with each other, sharing things. But then also what you say about the day, how the day goes. Even if there are men and women or relationships where they don't work together and they don't see each other all day, there can be other ways to have that connectiveness, like little messages here and there, playful reels sent, all those kinds of things. That is those touch communication points.
Yeah, that's something I really had to get over, was my initial thoughts around memes and reels, and instead of thinking of them as a distraction, because like we can get like that, seeing them as little touch points that you're reaching out with. And by flipping that in my head, that's been a huge thing in me internally to help increase that connection throughout the day. When you send me a reel and then you ask me, did I see it? And I say I didn't see it. It's kind of telling you, oh, well, okay, like I'm not a priority. And that took a long time to get my head around, but I'm getting my head around that now. And yeah, you're right. Like, it doesn't take much, and it could be the subtlest things. You'll miss it. As I'll tell you what, mate, if you're watching, you'll miss it.
Mate.
If I'm talking, if any of your husbands are watching
or listening,
this, you'll miss it. And there's your wife trying to connect with that, and 6 hours later, if you're wanting to connect and you didn't connect, then you're probably going to miss out. So I'm working on asking for what I want.
That's another communication factor as well, is actually expressing that, because I want to make this point. Everything that you just said before, I absolutely love, and I was nearly going to finish it up on there, but we're coming back around now. What I was going to say was,
I just said learning how to ask for what I want, without shame.
Yes. So with the communication, right, is that I had no idea that you were suffering in your own way with our intimacy. So I was blinded by what I was going through, and probably a lot of women are like, well, rightly so, everything that you're doing in motherhood. But yeah, I didn't actually realize how you were feeling until you opened up to me, like quite a long time after, that you felt as though we didn't have a great sex life, whereas I was going along thinking, I think it's pretty good. Like, whenever we were intimate, it was amazing. And that's, for me, I'm always quality over quantity. So we've had to work together on that, about you being open about what you want, and then me being open about, well, this is how I feel about it, and coming together with our ideas and expectations of intimacy. Yeah.
I'll tell you where it's all stated in, like, if you think of how men suffer, it's we don't ignore the fact that motherhood's hard. And for the most part, I'm speaking for the good men out there, we don't think motherhood's not hard, and we do factor that into the equation when there's a lack of intimacy. But there's the guilt for wanting it, knowing those things that we deal with.
Then you deal with, yeah.
It's the guilt, and then it's the rejection of asking for it and not getting it. And we won't even have to ask to hear the no and to feel the rejection. We just won't ask because we feel guilty. So we know it's hard and we feel guilty for wanting it. So therefore we ask for it in our heads quietly, and we hear the no just through your body language. We feel rejected, and then the cycle just continues playing on. And then you add porn into the equation. So you bypass all of those things by whipping out the phone, doing the porn thing, masturbating, feeling the guilt and shame for that, and then it comes back around. It's a cycle. It's an addictive cycle that I had to recognize for myself.
And how long ago was that, though? Still in your 20s, right?
Yeah, still 20s.
Yeah.
It comes with maturity, but like...
Also wanting to grow and improve?
Well, the biggest thing for me was recognizing that after I'd used porn, I didn't actually chase you. Like, I didn't chase you anymore because the deed had been done, and the internal fire, the want wasn't there anymore. So it was like this short circuit. And then I had to ask myself, why am I getting to a point now where it's just easier to go use the porn instead of asking for like sex from my wife? Why aren't I asking for sex from my wife? Why do I feel so much guilt and shame? And why am I imagining all of this rejection? It probably wouldn't have been there half the time.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, and maybe this is happening more than what we even realize or want to talk about, because women need that chase. Otherwise, we're not, like we explained it before, during the day, is all those little things add up to feeling like it. But if you're not chasing and you're just doing work, and then you're getting your own release, then and what about mum?
Yep.
Like, what about your wife?
Yep.
Yeah, she gets nothing. So there's no date night plan. There's no little ways to show them that you love and care and that you actually want her as well.
Yep.
And you've got to actually want it.
What's that? What do you have to want?
So married couples, instead of going their separate ways,
Which is so easy.
which is so easy to do, and go and carry on about your life, you have to want to come back together and figure it out together.
Yeah.
And grow and have those fights and have that communication, be completely honest.
Yeah. You asked me the other day, you said, had a conversation around whether it's normal, our fights. It was on Monday.
You said, is it normal?
Yeah. You prompted me with a question and I said, yeah, I do wonder.
I said, do you wonder if it's normal because you were reading something in the Jay Shetty book or something for you? And I said, do you wonder if it's normal?
Yeah. And then you were like, speaking about another couple we know, and it's totally normal. And I had to chuckle, and then after reading through that Jay Shetty book, because now I'm up to marriage, it is really important that couples learn how to fight, because it's when you learn how to fight that there's, caring, and then there's compromise, and then there's, let me find another C because I can make this a 3C. It's like, it's connection, right?
Connection.
Yeah. You have
So what did you say?
caring.
And revise. Connection. Yeah.
Because you'll have your ideas, I'm my own.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll be seated in our egos about each of our ideas. And if there's not enough care there, like if one doesn't care more than the other, that's where you go separate ways. If you care equally, you come to a compromise. And then when you compromise, connect.
And you've got to remember what connected you guys in the first place.
I always go back to that.
Yeah.
Like I always, every time we've had a moment where it's like, is this going to end? It's always come back to, hang on a second, what's happening right now? And 2 or 3 weeks ago, what was my state? It was always like, when we're together and it's us two, we're we're fireworks. When other people come in and then cause these blow-ups, then it's like, okay, well, that's where there's like questions of whether or not we're going to make it through. And it's going back with that awareness of going, yeah, we are actually good. We came together on these values. We came together on this vision and future. So, yeah.
Having been through that with the mother of your child, what's the biggest lessons that you've learned? Me having chronic fatigue, raising the kids together. There's always lessons in hard times.
Yeah. My biggest lesson could be, you don't know what you don't know. And often always your wife is going to be your biggest guru. She's going to be the one that can see all the things that you can't see. And if you are open to what she sees, you will hear them, you'll grow, and you will actually like become a man. I think there's a saying out there, and it's like, mums make boys, dads create men. Coming from a fatherless childhood, I would say wives make men.
That's your experience,
That's
right?
my experience.
Yeah.
My experience is, mums will raise boys. Can't speak to dads because I didn't have a good dad, but wives definitely make men, because it's the shaping through that fire, that chaos, the fighting, the coming back together, the fighting, the coming back together that shapes you into the men that you eventually become. And all the men that I look up to have great relationships. So, yeah.
Amazing.
That's my biggest lesson.